All right, Rise, Grind, Repeat podcast with my good friend Frank Lamattina, and Tim Murphy's back. How you guys doing?
Doing good,
Doing well, thank you. Yeah.
Good.
How about yourself?
Good, thank you. Good, thank you. So thanks for coming on. So why don't you give our listeners, Frank, just a little bit of your background so they can kind of get to know you.
Yeah, sure. Originally from Western New York. So I've been in Connecticut, I don't know, my gosh, since 1996, however long that is. Too long to count, I guess. But I moved here for work and have been here ever since. Met my wife out here. I have two daughters, age 10 and 12. The loves of my life. Keep me busy, keep me on my toes. Been an engineer by trade my whole life. Worked in many, many different organizations. Actually had a stint as a golf professional, a teacher, not a player. Did that for a couple of years. That was my early midlife crisis. So that was in my mid-30s. I decided to do that. So I actually have a degree in sport management as well. So I'm one who likes to try many different things. So that's it. And actually now I'm trying another thing, which is coaching. So I'm off on a certification journey to become a life coach.
Yeah, and we spoke a little bit about that over the last month or so, and it ties perfectly kind of into what what we're talking to our listeners about, and that's kind of goal setting and and how you prepare your tasks and for the fact that you're working full time, but also doing working to become a life coach. What's your approach on a daily basis and maybe even long term? How are you when you're looking ahead, how are you planning towards achieving that goal, and what's your daily routine kind of look like as you go through towards that goal?
And it starts with the long term, as you say. It was a question that I had before I actually started the certification, to really figure out if I could do it, right? As you said, working full time, and then knowing that not only becoming a certified coach, but also in a specific niche, right? And so learning about that as well. So I was questioning myself, how am I going to get this done with all the things that I have to do? But I started it with the long-term goals. So let's say January 1st, 2021 is when I want to have my business running. So meaning I'm making money from coaching. And then I work my way backwards from that. So what does that mean for, getting a website going, getting certified along the way there, and then continuing to break that down until, okay, what does that mean for this week? And so what I started to do once I signed up for the certification at the beginning of September was breaking that all the way down. I started to look into what are my daily tasks? How am I going to get this done? Where do I find the time?
Right.
So what I decided to do is, I'm an early riser anyways. So I said, let's just do it in the morning. So I started waking up at 4:30 in the morning and doing a couple of things to kind of get me started for the day, which is a little bit of mindfulness or meditation, a few minutes of that, and then a few minutes of what I call a thought download. So I'll just empty out my thoughts. I don't know if it's the typical way of journaling or whatever, but it's literally just bullet points of my thoughts. So I'll do that for roughly 10 minutes. And then I'll do whatever I've scheduled for the day with regard to coaching. So it might be listening to podcasts specifically on the coaching niche that I've chosen, or it'll be on some training that I've been given from the school. And so that takes me basically through time to get ready for school and work. School for my daughters, because I bring them in because that's my kind of special time with them. So basically bringing them into school is kind of the stopping point for what I've considered my time for the coaching specifically. And then it's a work day. And then home, once I get home after work, it's specifically spending time with the family. Now, the niche that I've chosen is dads with daughters. So, obviously it's trying to figure out how to be a better dad. So I've carved out time, something we call fun time, which is basically me chasing them around the house, throwing little softballs at them like freeze tag. But that's sacred time. So we've carved out 10 to 15 minutes of that because they love that. I love that. And then it's dinner, and then, the normal kind of end of the day routine. And then it's a little bit of time with each of them in bed. So my wife and I will split, we'll do, I don't know why we've chosen 7 minutes, but we've chosen 7 minutes for each, and then we'll switch and spend 7 minutes with the other. And then it's, then what I've tried to do, and this is kind of coaching for my wife, is what I would do is get back right into the coaching stuff, and start to consume and continue to consume. And with some gentle nudging from her, her suggestion was, let's not try and become a one-trick pony, meaning put all your eggs in one basket, because you kind of, knowing me as she does, you kind of become a little dull. So what I tried to do there is separate it and just go into other interests. So I'm fascinated with the human mind, sports, whatever it might be. That's my time playing the piano. I started to do that, or learning. Hot cross buns is where my my expertise is at. But trying to make sure that I have something that that's not coaching related, not work related, not even family related for that matter, to really give myself something that's my own that I can just enjoy.
Yeah. That's a great approach too, to have something that's because I could see, if you were at it, every day over and over without some type of, not stress relief, but, you have to, find a way to kind of unwind and have it not be, a full court press, towards that. Now you said 2021 is kind of like your goal for starting to generate, revenue, or now how long, when did you start, the process? How long are you into it now?
Yes, I started roughly, it was the last week of August. And the certification is it's broken up into 2 6-month blocks. So the first 6 months is the actual coaching certification. So you're basically just going through learning how to coach. And then the second 6 months will be kind of business training from their perspective. So how to run an online business, how to run a coaching business. So in theory, that takes me up to September. And so the goal that I had for September is having the website up and running, maybe still coaching a few people for free as kind of practice and as I'm learning and doing that stuff. And then kind of, starting to curate content. So I have content for a website, all of that good stuff. So that would be the September 1st goal. And then giving myself that kind of last 3 or 4 months of the year to see what that generates or turns into by, whatever I do from a marketing standpoint, and seeing what I can generate, so that by January 1, it's bringing in some sort of money. Yeah. The goal isn't right away to stop working, my full-time job. We'll see how it goes, and then, we'll play it by ear from there.
Now, I know you're still fairly, early on in the process, but if you were to, and maybe you have already, have you found any times where, you get stuck within, your routine where, you might just be either unmotivated that particular day, or you're just, stuck on a certain task that, you need to get done, but you've tabled it, or anything like that? Has that arose yet, or?
Yeah, absolutely. And part of it might have been why my wife kind of sensed it in us talking. And when I was just consuming information, whether it be with regard specifically to coaching or specifically to my niche. And I'm not sure if stuck is the right word, but it probably is, in the sense that I was spreading myself thin, meaning I was looking up too much information, right? I could find 50 different websites, and my personality is to dive in as deep as I can. And so I would do that on every one of these websites. And it's great. It's a lot of consumption, but using the word stuck, I really wasn't getting anywhere. I was bringing in information, but I wasn't doing anything with it. So what I recently did it was probably about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, is I went back to a website specifically for the niche that we used a long time ago, my wife and I, from a parenting perspective. And I chose that one. And I said, this is the one that's going to be my go-to for now. And that'll give me the confidence that I'm learning for the niche and I can move forward on that. While then I can really put focus, on the 6 months of coaching and learning how to coach, right? Because there are two separate things. And so, so really focus on the coaching so I can do that is giving me the confidence there, while knowing that in the background, I'm still bringing in some information on the parenting. But it took a lot of self-reflection, I should say, because as I'm doing those thought loads in the morning, a lot of them are going around, when do I have enough time? I don't have enough time to get all this information. I can't get all this information out. And then you start to doubt, right?
Yep.
Am I ever going to be good enough at this? Am I ever going to know enough about this topic? And so I really had to kind of take a step back and figure out, what's most important in these blocks of time that I've laid out.
Frank, I mean, that's so timely that you say that, because I ran to the same kind of situation where, and again, it was like my wife that had to help me out, because I'm consuming all this information, whether it's the YouTube videos or a book or this, and I'm like, hey, this person's doing it this way, or I'm just getting more information on a certain topic, and it's like I don't know what to do with it, because I already have all this other information backed up that I either have to get down on paper or put a video together, or so it's like there's always like this content creation that I need to do, but then I overthink because I'm getting consumed with so much data, and it's like, what should I do first? Because and it's just like you said, it's just like stay the course, pick one kind of lane or format that you're gonna go with for now, and see where that takes you. And it's almost like taking action, instead of being a participant and getting more information. It's like, okay, now it's the time to act versus, we've taken up, at least for now, as much as we can. Let's get rid of that and put it, on paper or on video or whatever we're going to do, and then make room for more data, or more information,
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk a lot about it in the coaching program that I'm in. They have the term massive action, right? And they would call it some form of buffering that I'm doing by consuming all of that, right? Because it's preventing me from taking the action. It's making me feel good in the sense that, I must be doing something right. Yeah, because I look at all the websites I'm looking at, look at all the information I'm taking in, when in effect, I'm really kind of just buffering from taking the next step. But even going through the coaching, and I've been doing kind of the self-coaching probably since May. So, for a half a year around, and even going through that for 6 months, it seems like a lot of time, but you still get stuck in it so easily and so quickly.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, knowing that you've gone through that, and you still, have a year in the process of, between now and obtaining your goal, what tools and maybe you kind of already framed it, but 6 months from now, because obviously on the early stage, even for me, when I was setting up the blog and the podcast, it's like you have all that enthusiasm and you're excited and you can't wait to get going. It's easy to get up. It's in the morning. It's easy to stay up late at night because you have all these ideas, and then eventually you kind of slow down, and it's like at some point it might become work, and so do you have any strategy that you're kind of you might have in place, or for something like that 6 months from now, when you're not quite there, you're like right in the middle, with halfway to go, you're at the 50-yard line, you still got 50 to go to the end zone, what's going to keep you going?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I don't know that I have the full answer, but here's what my thought is right now. What I'm hoping is that by going through the first 6 months being the coaching, right, it's kind of a built-in break to what the next step is, and then the next step being the business part of it. And I know that will excite me because that was some of the stuff that I was using to buffer at the beginning. Where I was trying, oh my gosh, there's a website. Hey, look at Joe's website. I'm going to go onto Joe's website and see how he's doing it. Well, let me call a few other people and see what they're doing. So I got consumed, I just fell into that. So I know that's an interest of mine, and it's hard to hold myself back. So I'm hoping that will be once I get certified, then I can put my focus on that. And if I'm at a point where I need to be re-energized, that'll certainly do it from that perspective. One of the other things my wife and I have talked about is her joining me and being kind of the business person for this. That will energize me as well as having, doing it together, if you will. So those are kind of, I'll call them extrinsic ways, right? Because they're outside of me and getting that motivation. Internally, I think it'll be a couple of things. One is, luckily, I think I've been someone who's always been able to set some sort of goal and then attain it. Whether I do it smoothly or not, I'm not so sure, but there's always something that I'll go and do. I have 4 college degrees. Why? I don't know, because again, I might change my minds, but I go after something that interests me. So I'm not so concerned that it'll kind of fizzle out, if you will. My biggest concern is that I'll be so fearful of making that break eventually, whenever that is, of going from full-time job to this is my business now, and supporting the family for it. That again, it'll offer a time for me to buffer and to, and kind of already start to worry about that. What I've done in the past like that is again, take some self-reflection and see kind of what I need to do. Sometimes I need to take a break for whatever time, whether it's a week, and just step back and say, okay, let's set everything aside for a little while. You've been going at it for a long time. And that kind of re-energizes me in that sense. Right now, I just don't see that it'll happen yet.
Sure.
I'm sure it will. I just don't know how or when it'll manifest itself.
No, that's great. And it sounds like, obviously, like you have the support of your wife, and that's, definitely important. I know for me, my wife is a great sounding board, and she's helped me, quite a bit, stay on course as well. Now, do your daughters know, what your plans are as well? Or?
Yeah, they're extremely excited about being part of the website. They want to be part of the podcast if and when I do a podcast. So we've already talked about pictures and being, on the website. I've talked to them about maybe owning part of the blog. So however frequently I'm writing it, my thought is to have them do some writing as well. So
fantastic.
We haven't talked about it probably in the last couple of weeks for whatever reason, but in the beginning, we've talked about it a lot and how they can be involved and in doing little things like that. They're so psyched about being part of the podcast.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
I know my kids like to grab the mic, come in here and grab the mic and, play around. And so that's great. I mean, it'd be great to have their input and their voice too, especially if they're, writing blogs and especially for the niche you're looking at. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things, I want to close with is I'd like to ask, so if you could talk to one person, dead or alive, and have 30 minutes with them, where you needed some motivation, who would that person be and why?
Wow. That's a great, great question. It's funny. The first person that comes to my mind, I don't know that I would, but it is Tiger Woods. I used to be a huge fan, and I'm still a fan of his. I still, as I said, I was a golf professional for a little while. I love golf. I love the way he dominated the sport when he dominated the sport. And I'm super interested in the way he's made his comeback. forget all the personal stuff, but from all the injuries and things like that, golf is not a sport that you come back to easily. So even this week, he's playing out in Japan and he's leading the tournament after the first round. But he's someone that I would love to talk to regarding all of those comebacks, right? How do you go from being at the peak to being at the absolute bottom, barely walking, all those kinds of things? And how do you re-energize yourself to be the best again, knowing the struggle that you have to go through, knowing the hard work? He's got a gazillion dollars, right? He doesn't need to come back,
Sure.
For a monetary perspective. So he obviously does it for the love of the sport, for the love of all these goals that he's trying to achieve, whether it's breaking Jack Nicklaus's record of winning majors or whatever it might be. He's got this drive in him that is obviously almost superhuman. So I'd love to figure out how he just continues to reset those goals and what that means based on, whatever the comeback is that he's trying to do.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I think we all love a good comeback story, especially, it's for obviously everything he went through as well to come back and be in the mix again and at that level, for sure. You look at kind of like Michael Jordan too. He kind of walked away from the sport, played some baseball, and then came back and was still able to play, at that high level. But well, Frank, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, and good luck and Godspeed on your venture, and we'll definitely check back in a little bit and see how you're progressing, and love to see how everything works out, and we'd love to connect again and maybe be on your podcast.
Absolutely. I'd love it. I really appreciate the time. This is really great. And absolutely, I'd love to have you in the future when you guys or when I'm ready with my podcast. Love to have you there.
Awesome. Godspeed. Take care, guys.
Take care.